Sinisterism is about finding the primal aspects of the left-hand path, primal in history, primal in the psyche, thus obtaining truth. Thomas LeRoy.
Greetings and welcome back to your dose of sinister heathenry. But for those new to the channel, I'm Thomas LeRoy, founder of the International Left-Hand Path organization, the Sect of the Horn God. The Sect is an educational foundation created to not only make those with the black flame aware of its glow, but to also restore the shadow aspect to the ancient gods. What the hell does that mean, you may ask? Well, let's face it, there's been a neutering of the primal deities by the modern pagans, the neo-druids, and the white witches. They've unwittingly infected the occultic zeitgeist with their Christian-inspired slave morality to such a degree that most have no awareness of the true nature of the old gods. For example, many think Odin is a Norse Yahweh, that Pan is simply a happy-go-lucky goat-human hybrid, and all Lilith is, if they're even aware of her, is Adam's bitchy first wife. When there is so much more to them. Much, much more. So, if this sounds interesting, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to learn more, join the organization, the Sect of the Horn God, at the link down below. Thanks. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I watched a documentary called Crushed. This was about a Halloween celebration in 2022 in which over 150 people died, crushed to death on a side street or alley in Seoul, South Korea. They weren't crushed by, I don't know, a tank or a steamroller or that trash compactor thing in Star Wars. They crushed themselves. And because everyone's walking around now with a video camera in their pockets, there was plenty of footage of this very pathetic situation. But this phenomenon is nothing new. It's happened countless times throughout history. For example, in 2015, during the annual Hajj in Mecca, a crush occurred, resulting in the death of around 2,400 people. That's a lot of fucking people. And thinking about the reality of this very bizarre manifestation makes me wonder if I could ever find myself in a similar situation. And the answer to that is I doubt it. I hate crowds. I won't even eat in a crowded restaurant or set foot in a crowded elevator, let alone try to push my way through an alley stuffed with humanity. And that's one of the reasons why I live in a small town in the country. I like open spaces, and I'm not a huge fan of humanity as a mass, as a collective. I wouldn't say I'm misanthropic, not exactly. I like individuals, I like people, but humanity as a whole, as a thing, that mindless thing, that I despise. Individuals can be intelligent. The mass of humanity, on the other hand, is always stupid, always. And don't get me wrong, I'm not victim shaming here in the case of the Halloween crush. Like a flood, people sometimes get swept up beyond their control by that mindless thing. And whenever you have man-made catastrophes, people will look for those to blame. It's understandable. And one institution held responsible for the Halloween crush was the police and their lack of crowd control. While I personally say it was not the police, but humanity, and that which compacts humanity, civilization, is to blame. Think about it. Would our cousins, the great apes, ever find themselves in a situation like this? Now, I'm fully aware that there aren't a whole lot of apes in the world, and they don't congregate in cities, but that's the point. They don't live in such large, mindless groups, but instead in clans or troops. And that validates the statement I've made countless times on this channel, and that is, civilization is unnatural. We primates aren't meant to live in great collectives called cities, states, or countries, governed by those who in most cases don't even know we as individuals exist. How many out there personally know or have spoken to their mayor, governor, or president? Not many. And if we lived as we should, the leader, the alpha, would know you. He may not like you, and you may not like him, but he would be fully aware of your existence. You would know why certain choices were made within your community, why you were called to sacrifice your time and effort, and why, in some cases, you were called to fight. I think the reasons would be obvious. They wouldn't be based on some abstract notion depending upon some stranger's philosophical whims. You would know and be aware of what's necessary, what's needed to be done for the survival of your clan. But you may ask, if we're still in the primal state, wouldn't existence be vile, brutish, and short? And this brings us to the 17th century thinker and writer Thomas Hobbes. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a Hobbesian by any stretch of the imagination. I had heard of him, but knew very little of his philosophy. But because of how my brain works, I went down the inevitable rabbit hole. To give a simple overview, Hobbes believed in what was called the state of nature. And of course, the idea that humans are savage brutes at our core, which we are, Hobbes believed it would be better to have tyrannical leaders and a restrictive form of government than no government at all. He argued in his book called Leviathan that without government, life would be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. He believed people would attack you because they needed your resources for their survival. Others because of the sheer want of power. Some would come after you because they can't trust that you won't go after them. So, to play it safe, they attack you first. The result is that the state of nature is a constant war of all against all. You might be ready to fight, even if you don't want to, because the only way to ensure your safety is to go after them before they go after you. He insists that we human beings need the Leviathan, that heavy-handed state to keep us in check. Thus, Hobbes believed that trash compactor called civilization was a good thing, necessary to keep the beast within at bay. Now, I disagree with Hobbes on many levels, but at the same time, I can understand why he believed what he did. This is because he came up with his theory during the English Civil War, a period of chaos in his nation so grim that even the king was beheaded. So, he believed that safety under authoritarianism was better than savage freedom. That is, he or she who doesn't know you, doesn't really care about you, and they're in that position of power because they've allowed their beast within to get the better of them. Get what I'm saying? Savage humanity hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been funneled into one single entity, the leader. But at the same time, we've always had an alpha. This is something that Hobbes couldn't have been aware of back in the 17th century because there was, at that time, very little knowledge of our most primordial ancestors. So that's why he believed that life would be nasty, brutish, and short. Now, what has this to do with sinisterism and the left-hand path, you may ask? Well, it's all about the Leviathan. But not Thomas Hobbes's Leviathan, but Thomas LeRoy's. This is the inner Leviathan, that primordial current from the depths of the psychic abyss that can be channeled to be your personal alpha. As stated, all tribes, clans, or troops have alphas, and you, as an individual on the left-hand path, are a tribe of one. Thus, you need the guidance of the Leviathan, the psychic aspect of the self that reigns over all others. Check out my video on the Leviathan hypothesis if you want more details. So, in conclusion, I know what you're thinking right about now, you hypocrite, Thomas LeRoy. How can an individual be a tribe of one in an organization like the Sect of the Horn God? Well, it's because of what we have to offer that individual, and that is fuel to ignite the embers of the black flame, that torch you'll need to carry to get down the path. And also, with the bastardization of the old gods, you'll be helping me to take on the neo-pagans and the neo-druids and the neo-witch bullshit artists so that we can give back to the primordial horn god his testicles. I think he would appreciate it. Until next time.